We're here at a national gathering in Washington, D.C. called the People's Congress of Resistance. About 1,000 activists, organizers, and community leaders from all over the country have converged here to build the real resistance against the Trump regime. Participants here say they are the representatives of the majority, and they're not here to simply lobby the U.S. Congress, but they want to replace Congress altogether.
Sisters and brothers, as the United States Congress works to cut deals with the Trump administration, we have assembled to represent the alternative of steadfast resistance, political independence, and a vision of revolution. According to our registration, as of Thursday night, we had resistors from 37 states and 159 different towns and cities. We want to salute the tenant organizers who have come from West Virginia, the immigrant organizers from Western Pennsylvania, those who are helping the homeless in the Appalachian regions of North Carolina.
People say to me all the time, you can't bring together the undocumented people with the black workers. It can't be done. You can't bring together Harlem with Appalachia. It can't be done. You can't bring together people who maybe only speak Spanish and people who only speak English. It can't be done. There are too many divisions. People are too divided. We're fighting too much amongst ourselves. There's no way we can unite. And honestly, what they mean is that you can never win. And my message to those people is look around. Not only can it be done, it is being done. It's a worldwide struggle. It won't be contained in the categories that they try to put on us. It can't be contained in the false borderlines that they draw. We will fight for every person who is under the boot of oppression and exploitation. And let me just close. I'm very inspired by these young people here, and we need to send a message to everyone who is watching this right now. If you are undocumented and you are afraid, if you are a DACA recipient and you are afraid, we have your back.
We all know we're facing a massive assault on our civil rights and on our civil liberties. We're facing racist police violence, racist police murders, assaults on immigrants, terrorizing of immigrant communities. And we also know that none of this started with Trump. We know that these are institutions that we have all been fighting. And we also know, to say the truth, that these institutions weren't changing with Clinton, who is a friend of Wall Street, with Clintons who are the architects of mass incarceration in the modern era. So what we do have with Trump is the fact that he's given a green light to the white supremacists, to the Nazis, to the fascists, to the racists, to feel like they can come out with power. And when they tried, look what's happening, as evidenced by everyone in this room, as evidenced by the hundreds of thousands of people that have been taken to the streets. They thought their day had come, and every time they come out, what are they met with? A force of people that are telling them that they have to go back, that this country is not going to be taken over by the Nazis and the Klan. But these institutions, we also have to recognize why they exist. These are the pillars that create the society for the few, the unnatural society of the few. And we are here to fight for the society of the many.
Quiero decirte que vivo en un estado de muchas opresiones, de muchas barreras, de muchas desigualdades. Pero ¿sabes qué? He cambiado todo enojo y todo disgusto y tristeza por lucha. Quiero decirte algo, con toda humildad. Siempre he dicho que el trabajo que hacemos las mujeres en Texas es un trabajo revolucionario, es un trabajo de revolución. Pero ahora que estoy aquí, voy a regresar inyectada de pasión y de poder y de compromiso gracias al trabajo que están haciendo cada uno de ustedes.
It's important that we understand this. There are times in history when the political situation could be characterized by extreme apathy, inactivity, and political passivity. I think all of us have experienced our share of political apathy. But this is not one of those moments. People are politically engaged. People are talking about politics. They're mobilizing. But activism alone and protest alone, spontaneity alone, is insufficient. Our goal is not to protest. Our goal is to win. One of our key objectives here is to establish a clear and unshakable basis of radical and revolutionary politics. We have to articulate a resistance movement that cannot be co-opted by the elites in the Democratic Party. Our horizon goes far beyond the midterm elections. It goes far beyond their little tweaks to this rigged political order that already exists. We want nothing less than the reorganization of society and the transformation of who holds power. Because we are taking matters into our own hands. Society cannot go on in the old way. This is why millions of people around the country have been fighting for a new way. We are proudly claiming the power that belongs to us because we are the source of it. The capitalists insist that food and housing and education and medical care should be distributed by markets. They want to sell back to us the products of our own labor for their personal gain and for our continued misery. But when we fight for decent housing, healthy food, an end to fossil fuels, free education, and Medicare for all, we are fighting against a system in which profits and markets and debt dominate our lives and sentence us to death. Millions of people desire a political revolution against the billionaire class. The interest in socialism has grown over the last 2 years. The will to create a more just and equal society grows daily. The will to revolution grows daily. The People's Congress of Resistance has assembled to give voice and vision to this revolution.
It is a completely and entirely distinctive and contradictory orientation. The Democratic Party, the conservative, centrist, Wall Street wing, and the liberal wing seeks to mildly tweak the imperialist, capitalist system based on Wall Street power, the military-industrial complex, and the police state. And our goal is to smash that state and to build a new entity that truly represents the people, the working people of this country.
Because when you begin to learn our history, you begin to realize that it is the history of a movement or many movements. It is a history of powerful resistance that has once and will again change the society for the better. This understanding of our history as a history of a movement extends not just to African Americans, but to every single oppressed group that has set foot on these shores. The extent to which any oppressed people in the United States have won, be it African Americans or women or mine workers in Kentucky or Chicano farmers in the Southwest, the extent to which any of us have won rights or dignity or any consideration whatsoever from the elite powers and their laws has been the extent to which we've organized and fought for it. And that's why they're so afraid of us teaching and learning this real history. That's why the racists have tried to outlaw ethnic studies in Arizona, while they're trying to ban AP US history in Oklahoma and keep Howard Zinn books out of Arkansas classrooms. Because our history is not just a history of the movement, it is a history of the power of the movement. It's not just a story of people fighting back, it is a story of ordinary people uniting, resisting, and forcing this country to move forward. Our history teaches one lesson above all others. As the great Frederick Douglass said, say it with me if you know the words, power concedes nothing without demand. So welcome to the People's Congress of Resistance here at Howard University. In the memory of those who have gone before, we remain ready to stand up, speak out, and fight back. Welcome, everyone.
Over this two-day event, panels and workshops covered everything from the fight against mass incarceration, racism, militarism, and more, all built around a common vision of a society for the many, outlined in their manifesto that takes away power from the millionaires and puts it in the hands of the people.
And they have also become, like many rural communities around the country, they have become internalized colonies of an extraction economy. And like other extraction economies around the world, these are communities in which their natural resources are extracted directly under the ground they stand on.
We need radical, anti-imperialist voices that are not afraid to talk about capitalism and imperialism as the root, because there's so many disparate threads going on and there's no core, right?
Has anything changed for you and your community since Trump took office?
Oh, definitely. I come from an immigrant family, and also people that are DACA recipients. And, you know, recently with the DACA attack, and just since Trump took office, all of the ICE raids that have been happening, I mean, my family is scared. They're living in the shadows, as you know, as well as like 12 million immigrants in this country.
For my community, everybody's paranoid, everybody's scared. Some people try to avoid certain streets now, and everybody has to keep a tight communication with each other in order to feel some sort of comfort that they're not going to be taken away from their families.
So my parents are immigrants, so it's really tough. They've been discriminated against. When we go out to like the places that are white populated, they get like racist comments like, "Oh my God, what are you doing here? You didn't deserve to be here."
If we're talking about the black community, Trump's open and overt support of the police, not only that, but if you recall, his sort of open a request to police to basically intensify their brutality is something that's going to have a direct impact on black communities and other poor, working, depressed communities, because this is precisely where the police play such a repressive role. You know, within a capitalist society, the police basically serve as a means to keep the lid on the pot of frustrations that simmers in oppressed communities based on the state of underdevelopment because of, sort of the, social, political, and economic degradation that they experience under the system.
Embolden fascists and Nazi and racist individuals to continue terrible attacks. Myself in Brooklyn, the issues of police brutality, in my opinion, have soared. I'm seeing more mothers coming to the front lines and fighting for their families. I'm seeing more mothers fearing for their children because you have somebody who's an outright racist in office. With someone who is showing clearly who he is, people are afraid, and there's a real fear in the community.
It's dangerous thinking to try to equate the violence of white supremacists, complete fascists, neo-Nazis, all the different names that they call themselves, it's all the same, really. To conflate that with leftists, anti-fascists, and anti-racist activists who are only trying to protect themselves is dangerous because, if you don't see the difference, then you may not know where you sit on the issue, right? And so, to me, to compare, because I felt like he was comparing me to actual genocidal maniacs, and I don't appreciate that.
I think I've seen a change in the consciousness of my family, my friends, people in my community. People are starting to understand that Trump is simply a symptom of this system, because the thing is, it's not like Trump got into office and then all of a sudden black people started getting shot in the streets and no justice was served, or trans women getting killed and no justice was served, or people are going hungry and no justice is served for them. him. You know, so we understand that he's simply a symptom of this capitalist system in decay, of the Democratic Party in a disarray because they don't represent the people that they claim to represent. We understand that people wanted something different, people wanted a change, and we see that the only reason why he won was because we haven't reformed our electoral system in 200 plus years when someone like me would have been a slave, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, I think people are starting to see that things have always been screwed up, and that the fact that Trump can just get into office and repeal DACA in a second, and all these different things, it just kind of shows the fragility and the underlying root issues of this system.
I am a nurse, and every day I work in Los Angeles in a big metropolitan hospital, and every day I see the direct effects of denial of health care, denial of access, what the profit system does to the standard of living, the healthcare, health of our people.
Well, myself, you know, not only I'm second generation, so I was privileged enough to be born here, but I'm a teacher in one of the most affected communities in San Francisco, in the Mission District, and a lot of our families are coming with trauma, the fact that they've come as refugees from Central America, the fact that they haven't gotten paperwork here, and their kids are afraid to come to school. The very next day after the Trump election, we had we're a school of like 700 people, maybe 100 students did not come to school because they thought they were going to get raided right away. So the fact that we can empower folks and tell them we can create sanctuary cities, defend sanctuary cities, defend sanctuary states. I think having a left politic keeps pushing the agenda forward, and so being able to take a politic like this and building around that gives people hope, and more importantly, empowers them.
지금 트럼프 행정부는 북한과의 대결을 이용해서 한국의 안보 비즈니스를 하고 있습니다.
Trump is using the US DPRK crisis to basically create profits for the military-industrial complex.
저희는 이런 트럼프 행정부에 반대해서 싸우고 있고요. 그리고 더 이상 한국이 미국에 의해서 좌지우지되는 시대를 끝내야 한다고 생각하고 있습니다.
And we are fighting against these actions of the Trump administration, and we believe that the South Korean government should no longer be ordered around by the United States.
Why do you feel like a party that calls itself the resistance does not really represent the people?
I think the Democrats in this moment find it convenient to sort of couch themselves the resistance. Number one, I mean, they're embarrassed by their defeats to Trump. And secondly, they need to poise themselves for the 2020 election, presidential election, and these sort of upcoming primary elections as well, I believe, in 2018. So even though they have absolutely no interest in supporting any measures that will positively impact the material conditions of the very elements that they shunned during the election, they can put this mantle on because they know that people think that they're the only alternative to what they see in Trump in the White House.
Well, we have seen since before Trump that the Democratic Party has really actually pushed a lot of the policies that have affected our people, have deported our people in masses, have proposed programs that are just Band-Aid solutions like DACA, have not gone to the root of the issues that affect people.
The Democrats wouldn't know where the resistance was if it hit them in the face. They take credit for the people's work. They don't align themselves with the people until they feel it's convenient for them, until it's time for primaries that are coming up soon, when it's time for their interests. And the people here understand that we're not taking any more lies.
When they see things like the GOP, trying to take away health care, they see that as a win because they see that as an opportunity for them to take over in, the next election or whatever. They don't see it as millions of people dying from, the lack of health care. They don't care about that.
We really cannot rely on politicians to do this work for us. We have to be the ones to build power in our communities and pressure them and tell them what it is that we need and we demand because their class interest is really what's going to be primary at the end of the day, and we have to put our interests first in our communities.
I think a perfect example that I can think of at the top of my head is Cory Booker. We know that, people are saying, oh, Cory Booker 2020, yet he's taking millions of dollars from Big Pharma,
who's funding, you know, people getting addicted to opioids. I think of Nancy Pelosi and how she denied standing up for abortion rights because she was saying, you know, we gotta talk to people. We can't just, you know, take a stance. We're gonna divide the party. That's what you need to do. You need to stand up for everybody. And so the Democrats, you know, they toy around with these things that are actually our rights.
But Monica, the Democratic Party calls itself the resistance. I mean, are they not resisting Trump?
I mean, you see they're ready to step aside and make compromise for Trump. We see Nancy Pelosi and even Bernie Sanders, you know, arguably the most progressive person in the Democratic Party right now, you know, sitting there saying things like, oh, you know, abortion rights are, you know, it's something we can compromise on.
All those parties are influenced by lobbyists, and they rather take upon their own interests instead of the people's interests, which they should be doing in the first place. And a lot of the politicians and candidates that we supposedly vote on are chosen for us, and we don't choose them. That's why they don't represent us, and we're representing ourselves now.
I think they try to exploit us. They try to take away our money instead of helping us. They don't find ways to actually help us. And we need that. And the Democratic Party or the Republican Party doesn't do that.
We finally can provide a way that has a program for the people. For example, just recently, the Trump's announcement to cancel DACA. You already hear the immigrant rights movement, the more formal elements of the immigrant rights movement, claiming that we have to support more Democrats. But with the People's Congress of Resistance, which passed an amazing resolution standing in full solidarity with all immigrants, not just the DACA students, we can actually go back to our communities and organize around such a program.
We understand that the Democrats continue to compromise, to sell out the working class, to sell out the black and brown communities, to sell out immigrants, to sell out the LGBTQ community in favor of Wall Street, in favor of their own interests. You know, we see that, you know, they call themselves the resistance, but what have they been really doing? Hillary Clinton is going on a book tour right now while people are hitting the streets every single day all across this country. We see students organizing, protesting walkouts. As soon as the DACA, Trump's repeal of DACA was announced, we saw middle schoolers across the country walking out of school. You know, so we see that the resistance is in the streets. It will never be in Congress. It will never be on Capitol Hill. We understand that they do not represent the resistance, and the resistance will only be won by working class people and people of oppressed backgrounds. You know, we're going to be the ones organizing in the streets for our own freedom. They're not going to bring us that.
Sean, what is the People's Congress all about? Why do you guys feel like you need to replace the existing Congress?
The People's Congress of Resistance is about bringing together grassroots activists and organizers from all across the country, from all different fields of struggle, if you will, develop, well, I don't even want to say develop, because I feel like if people are here, they kind of understand how a lot of these issues are connected. But what it's really for is to strengthen ties and make sort of concrete, sort of face-to-face personal connections with different people fighting on different fronts in different parts of the country, so that we can put forth a national front, if you will, and a concerted push against what we're seeing coming from the Congress and from America's two-party system.
This is a chance to have a voice and to project a vision of what kind of country, what kind of Congress, what kind of government we want. The elite, the rich, the billionaire class has been in charge for too long, and look at the suffering. It increases every day, and the only way we can stop it is by getting together. We cannot depend on the Democratic Party posing as the resistance. We have to be the resistance. We have so many different struggles. We're under such attack on so many levels and many issues in our communities and around the world. We need to bring them all together so we have each other's back, so we can be effective in turning back this tide of reaction that's sweeping the country to Trump and his supporters and the ultra-right and all those who want to take away the rights we fought so hard for and to renew racism against the communities, intensify and single out those who are most vulnerable.
저희는 새로운 사회는 민중의 단결과 연대, 행동에 의해서 가능하다고 생각합니다. 당연하게도 미국의 진보적인 활동가들도 그런 취지에서 연대하기를 원합니다.
And we believe that a new society is only possible through solidarity and through the unified action of the people. And that is why we also need to be in solidarity with people's movements in the United States.
And we're here because, Congress continues to funnel all of our money into the military-industrial complex. We're seeing it clear right now with the Afghanistan war continued now for 16 years while people in this country are homeless, people are starving, we don't have health care. And so, the list goes on and on, so we could go on and on with all the issues, but we're basically here, to unite, to bring all of these different movements across the country under one, giant movement to fight back.
The People's Congress is ending with a big march to the White House to show the millionaires on Capitol Hill that this Congress is a Congress of action and the real force of resistance.
Let's say more work. We say no more. Let's say more work. We say no more. No peace. No justice. No peace. No racist police. No justice. No peace. Stand up, fight back. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. What? All the walls have got to go. From Palestine to Mexico. All the walls have got to go. From Palestine to Mexico. All the walls have got to go. Are we ready to fight? Yeah. Are we ready to win? Yeah. The same people who think the police should be able to murder and kill with impunity in St. Louis, think the military should be murdering and killing all around the world, think that most nations don't have the right to do anything but be under the heel of the U.S. boot. It's the same people, it's the same system, and we can't allow those fights to be separated. I believe that we will win. I believe that we will win.